Chapter 3, page 32. The Pit and the Lake in the Hole. The next morning was the beginning of winter vacation. I was up before the great horned owl came home from hunting, and before the little lizards called anoles were warm enough to move and run. It was the hour when spider webs gathered dew, and butterflies hung upside down at the tips of leaves waiting for the sun. The air was damp and heavy to breathe. It was so early, Mom would not be leaving the diner for 2 hours. I picked an orange from a wild orange tree the Spaniards had left behind and took a biscuit from the tin bread box. The orange was deep gray, the biscuit pale gray, for it was still night. Page 33. When I reached Gumbo Limbo Hole, the orange was orange and the biscuit was tan. The stripes on my shirt had changed from many grays to many reds. The sun had risen and I could see the color again. The sun comes up swiftly over southern Florida. On this day there was darkness, then pink light, then pop! A red-hot penny of a sun was sitting on the horizon. With that, a colorful Gumbo Limbo hammock materialized. The green palm leaves pranced like tethered ponies in the morning breeze. Yellow flowers rustled. The green palms being like tethered ponies, they compared with like, so that is a simile. I could also see Dajan's beach, where he came ashore during the day to bask in the sun. He wasn't there. I looked at his night camp, which, at this time of year, was in the deep water of the hole. In winter, his water was warmer than the night air. Dajan, like all reptiles, is cold-blooded. He cannot manufacture heat as humans do. Instead, he regulates, or keeps the same, his temperature by moving from the water to the land and back to the water, depending on which will keep his temperature normal. He is a sunshine animal, hunting and bulldozing and basking on his beach by day. When he gets too hot, he goes into the water to cool off. In the hot afternoons, he often regulates his temperature by floating on the surface. The sun warms his back and the water cools his belly and feet. At night, when the air is colder than the water, he seeks out deep holes for warmth. Page 34. As I stood there, eyes on Dajan's beach, Travis materialized in the sunlight. I backed slowly into the alligator flags, a tall plant that grows around alligator holes. Hidden among the flag-like leaves, I watched. If Travis had seen me that morning, he would certainly have wondered about me. Why would I come back today after being so scared last night? The official turned his head slowly, surveying the lake, and then eased himself backward into the dense willows. Pulling branches over and around himself, he sat down, took out his pistol, and lifted his binoculars. My heart thumped so loudly I could hear it. His gun was aimed at the sawgrass prairie at the far end of the lake. During the day, Dajan often hunts snakes and muskrats in those grasses that grow in the knee-deep water. My only thought was to scare the old dragon into hiding. I crept out of the flags and, dropping to all fours, scuttled into the woods like a raccoon. Near the banyan tree, I ran into James, getting to my feet. I put my finger on my lips and pointed to Dajan's beach. Page 35. James, I whispered. Travis has his gun aimed at Dajan in the sawgrass prairie. I'm going there to throw rocks at him and scare him away. Don't bother, he answered. I've just come from there. He's not in the prairie. He's not? I said with gleeful surprise. Then where is he? He's not in Gumbo Limbo Hole or on his beach. I don't know. James rubbed his temple with the tip of his forefinger. But we can't look for him while that official is there on his beach. Think, James, I said pleadingly. Think. Okay, you climb the oak tree. There's a large limb at the top with a great view. Look for Dajan while I'll join Travis. I'll walk in to him from the north as if I was coming from the condos. I'll tell him I saw his reward notice. Then I'll say the big gator is in the lake on the golf course. I'll take him there and leave him. He smiled puckishly. That'll give us time to get Dajan into the solution pit when he comes out to bask on his beach. James started off, and he had walked about 10 steps when he stopped and came quietly back. Page 36. If you see Travis leave the beach before I reach him, he whispered, call like a great horned owl. 1 hoot means he's going towards Gumbo Limbo Trail. 2 owl hoots means he's going to the sawgrass prairie. Either way, I'll cut over and meet with him. Smart to make a code, isn't it? Got it, I said. Before climbing the tree, I went to the solution pit. I wanted to be sure Dajan had not gone there on his own. I would know if he had. He flattens and tramples the plants when he walks. The plants are perky and unsmashed. Nevertheless, I checked the water. It was dark and clear. Little fish swam vigorously. Vigorously is on the back of your book. Go ahead and put the page number for it. They come into the solution pits through the holes in the limestone when the winter sun dries up and the wet prairies and swamps. A snake crossed the water with a frog, leaped in, and disappeared. Behind him came a weasel who stopped and sat up on his haunches. He looked at me unafraid, but there was no Dajan. Satisfied at that point, I climbed the oak using our orange crate to reach the first limb. After that, the branches provided a staircase to the top of the tree. Poking my head through the leafy canopy, I looked out on our world. I was an eagle surveying my home. I could see my enemy, Travis. He was still in the willows beyond Dajan's beach. Surrounding my hammock on 3 sides was pineland. On the 4th side was the sawgrass prairie where Travis thought Dajan was lurking. The prairie was surrounded by a cypress swamp. Beyond the cypress swamp was an abandoned tomato field. Still further in the pink haze of the morning, I could see Big Cypress National Preserve. It was gray because the leaves of the trees fall off in winter. I looked north to the condo village and a canal. The canal was built to drain a cypress swamp to the north so that Silver City, a new retirement town, could be built. The water drains into Chokoloskee Bay. To the south, I could see the highway to Miami cutting through the cypress forest and the sawgrass prairies. The mangrove swamps lay beyond the highway, and beyond the mangrove swamps in the beautiful Chokoloskee Bay stretched all the way to the sky. Check that out on the map. To the west, the tall buildings of the county government center jutted above the mist that hit the sunshine town of La Playa on the Gulf of Mexico. Page 38.